Hello engineers, today we're going to be learning how to script. But before you can, there are a few options you need to change. In the game options you need experimental mode ticked, and it will give you a message saying are you sure, because this doesn't get support, and you select yes. And now when you create a game, I already have one ready, you have to go into the settings, make sure you're in creative, and in advanced there's a tick box for in-game scripts. Make sure that's on. And I have one mod that is probably going to be useful here, Build Vision 3. Don't worry about the rest I have here, they are aesthetic. Okay. Now, make yourself a little platform, a grid, just enough to stand on. Maybe one last row. Give it a power supply. You don't have to worry about uranium because we're in creative mode, it all just works. Gravity generator is good as well, just makes it more convenient when you can just stand. And of course a programmable block. Now, as soon as you've created a grid, I would recommend the first thing you do is go into the info tab and give it a name in case you need to find it in the entity list. Just lab, I guess, and convert to station. Otherwise, it will start spinning around when you do things like move pistons. Now let's start simple. If this could have been a better way around. There we go. Right. You get this printout of information in the bottom right in the terminal, and you can print your own words out there in the programmable block. The way you edit a script is in here, the edit button. The way you run a script is you press run, and the way you compile it is you press recompile. But there is no main method not found. That's right there. You can get rid of these lines. The lines with the double slash at the beginning are just comments and they're not part of the code. And we start with 3 methods or functions: program, save, and main. We're going to be looking at program. Program is the one that runs when you click OK or when you click recompile. And we're going to be looking at the echo method. What echo does is it prints out whatever you want in this bottom right section. All you have to do is add a string of what you want to say. Now, there are several data types in C#, which is the language we're using here. I'm not going to address them all at once because it's a bit of a mouthful. I'll address them as we come to them. And right now we have come to the string, which is just any text in between quotes. Okay, instantly you'll see it's printed all that gobbledygook out. Let's give it something better. Hello from program. Now, if we put this in main and say hello from main, you'll see that every time you click the run button, it runs main. Every time you click the recompile button, it clicks program. Run is also what runs whenever the block is triggered by pressing a button or some other signal from the grid. Now, as well as putting a string directly in between the brackets here, you can store that string in a variable so that you can use it in several different places instead of having to type it out manually every place you put it. First, you declare it as a string, give it a name, any name, something that makes sense and reminds you what it's for later on would be good. And then you just put the string there instead. And now this will get stored inside this. And now all you need is the name, and you put the name anywhere you want your string to be. And it should do exactly the same thing. And now when you change this, it still changes it, still goes through. Let's return that back to the way it was. Now in a lot of blocks, you'll find you have this custom data field. And all this is just a big free text box that you can type anything you like in. I'm actually going to get rid of the square brackets because that does something special that we'll look at later. Now what you can do is you can grab this text from custom data and use it in your script. So instead of storing this, actually let's just create another variable name. String my custom data. And now we're going to put the custom data text in here. And the way you get at it is you say me, and me refers to the block you're currently inside of, and that's going to be this programmable block. Dot to access the contents, and what you'll want is custom data, nice and simple. And now if we put my custom data into the echo, look at that, there it is. And it works both ways. As well as grabbing the text that's in the custom data field, you can add to it or change it by just me.custom data equals, in exactly the same way that you store a string into a variable, you can store a string into the custom data. Just create a string. Some custom text. Now when we go into custom data, there it is. And you can just make this as big as you like. If you do /r/n, that's carriage return new line. And you can just create new lines. If you don't put new line characters in, it will just spill off the right hand side forever. Like, for example, if I just copy that bit without the new lines, off it goes into forever. Some other things you can change inside the programmable block are these toggles here. Turn the power on and off. This shows the block in the terminal here. It still shows it because you're actually looking at the programmable block, and if that actually vanished, you'd create a paradox where you could only ever turn this off once and then you'd never be able to see the programmable block in the terminal ever again. If you go to something else, you'll see that it has actually vanished. Show block in terminal, I believe that is me.show in terminal equals. And now we come to our second data type. It's not a string this time, it's a boolean, which is a true or false. It's either on or it's off. In this case we want it to be false, because we want to flip that switch to the off position. Okay, this is just a warning saying that we've created a variable called myString and we haven't used it for anything, so it's taking up room in memory for no reason. That's not a concern. It's tiny, but we will comment that out to get rid of the warnings. Show internal false, and there it is. It's gone false, and now it's gone grey here. Let's make it true. And yeah, it's true again. Now, in exactly the same way that we can store a string in a variable, we can store a boolean in a variable. We just have to write bool, short form. My I should actually say show in terminal. That's what it is. So let's just call it what it is. Equals false, and then show in terminal. Copy the name here, and it worked. Just to prove that. It's back on again. Okay. We'll look at main now, because what we can do with main is just run it again and again and again, whereas what we've been doing up until now is recompiling the entire thing to get some stuff to work. That's not really how we'd be using this. So what we can do is in here, every time we run the script and main goes, we'll have this happen in here. And instead of actually setting it ourselves, what we'll do is we'll make it change to the opposite. So it will just keep flipping and flopping every time we run main. And the way we do that is we just make it equal to itself. Whoopsie. And we put an exclamation mark at the beginning. An exclamation mark in C# is a negator. It will reverse whatever's in front of it. Usually it's used with, I think it's only used with booleans actually, because that's the only thing that would make sense. So if the current state is true, then it will make it equal to the current state but reversed, which means false will now be stored in here, and vice versa. So every time we run and handily, it will flick us back up to the top automatically. You can see that it's switching the state every time we run this. Okay, there's this custom name field. Usually you'd use this to customize the name. And we can access that in here as well. Let's do this. Custom name is what it's called. There is a cat on my desk, can you tell? Custom name equals. What we're going to do here is you can either set it, we'll just set it as one thing to begin with. A new name. Okay. Now currently it's just custom. If I run the script, it changes it to a new name. What you can do with strings is you can add them to other strings with a plus sign, just like you were adding two numbers together. But instead of performing arithmetic, it just glues the two strings together. Now I'll start with a space and some more. And at the moment it's just a new name, run, and some more. And it'll just do the same time. Now what you can do as well is you can just accumulate strings to the end of your string by making it equal to itself, whoopsie, yeah, make the string equal to itself, and then some more. And what that should do is now every time you press run, it adds more and more onto the end. Let's make it more visible by saying let's just put just like n. Alright, we'll just make this manually n, and then we'll run, and another n, and another n, and another n. Just keeps adding another one on the end every time. Now, the way you'd really use a programmable block is you would have something on the grid that would trigger it, like a switch, button, but there are many other ways you can trigger a programmable block, and we'll be getting into that at some point. But let's start with the buttons. Let's make it so that when you drag the programmable block down to slot 1, say run, and now you give it an argument. This is what allows you to filter, and it means you can get different buttons to trigger the same programmable block but do different things. So instead of it just every button runs everything that's in main, you can have it just run part of what's in main. Let's just say name. This will be name, and then it gives it a little label as well. And we'll have this trigger main, and we'll have all this show in terminal. We won't have that. It'll just be doing just this bit. And we'll need something called an if statement, not in capitals, in lowercase. An if statement will check what's in the brackets, and then if what's in the brackets is true, it will run the code in the body between the two curly brackets, which is where we want to put this. That's odd. What are you doing? I have to sort out all the indentation manually, of course. So, just to demonstrate, if this says true, then it will always just run this, and there's really no point in the if statement existing. But just to demonstrate, at the moment, it's just got one end. And we leave, and we press the button a few times. It should be making a beep noise, but I think it's not, because we are in the vacuum of space and sound can't travel. I've pressed it a bunch of times now. Notice how, you see the name is already telling us that there's loads of ends on it. Yeah, there we are. Get rid of them again. One end. Now we would look. Why it should only be two. There we go, 2 ends. Click it again. 3 ends. Oh, I guess the name of the block on the button label remembers what the name was when I first set up the button connection, and it doesn't change after that. But that's that working. And what we can do is set up the second button to toggle show block in terminal. Drag it down, and we'll give it the argument toggle. Well, of course, we haven't actually set this up yet. At the moment, it's just running every time because I set it to true. What we really want is a comparison. This is where that argument is coming through. It's a string. It's called argument. It comes in. You can check it in here. Argument equals, and then name. And this is case sensitive, so you need to remember to have this in all caps, because that's what we told the button. Now, if we change the name back, we'll say P, just something different, and then press this button a few times, You'll see that it's still working. So it is successfully getting to the if statement. The argument does indeed equal name, and so it's running the code inside. Now we need a second if statement for the second button. It doesn't matter what order they're in. This one said toggle, didn't it? Cat, it's not my fault that you're draping your tail over the keyboard, okay? So that's on you. We want the show in terminal line. Get that out of there. Put it in here. Okay, and that should work. At the moment, it's not visible, and now it is visible. So that's working quite well. Oops. Yep, definitely working. And I think that will do for today. Why not try getting the other two buttons to do something? Maybe show block on config. Maybe try changing that. Maybe try changing the custom name to something specific with the other two buttons. See you next time.